Hey everyone, Bill here, host of Stadia Cast. This is my review of Darksiders Genesis. Just to be perfectly honest, I don't review a lot of games. I only review the games that I finish, and when I say finish, I don't mean 100%. I mean, I finish the story. And I know that there's still a lot more for me to do in this game, but I want to move on to something else now. But I had a lot of fun with Darksiders Genesis. And if you don't have to worry about me spoiling any story stuff, so like don't worry about that. But if you don't want to see anything, like if you want to go in completely blind and you're just curious, is it a good game or not? For me, I think it's a very good game, and I had a blast playing Darksiders Genesis. So if that's all you wanted to know, simply add this video to watch later. Go pick up the game if you're on the fence, because I think it's great. And then if you after you've played it, come back and see if you agree with me. That being said, I will spoil things like mechanics, like what kind of weapons and attacks do we have. But that's pretty much it. You don't have to worry about any spoilers, story spoilers in this review. Okay. What I was hoping for, when I first saw Darksiders Genesis, what I was hoping for is something more Diablo-like. And this is very much not Diablo-like. That's on me. I didn't do my research ahead of time. I didn't really pay attention to what kind of game it was. I simply looked at the camera angle and said, ooh, that looks like Diablo. And I just assumed it was like a Diablo. It is very much not like a Diablo. It is a brawler. You know, the kind of brawler where you have chains of buttons, where I always refer to these as button mashers, but you have like chains of button combos that you have to hit, like X, 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 Y, X, or things like that. That's what kind of game this is. Now, most of the time, that is not the kind of game that I like to play. I usually will take a pass on those games. However, this being one of the few games on Google Stadia, I know that Stadia is just starting out, so it doesn't have lots of games. When I started playing it and I was like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, I figured, well, what the hell, let's check it out anyway. And after not very long, it kind of sucked me in, and I had a lot of fun with it. I will say this. About halfway through the game, I started skipping all of the dialogue and cutscenes. It just wasn't interesting enough to me to stick with it. So I would spam A to get through the cutscenes. I would get through the dialogue trees. I would hold down B in order to get past the cutscenes, which were a little weird. Like the cutscenes would kind of stutter almost when I was playing it, and I don't think it has anything to do with the idea that my internet connection wasn't up to snuff or that Stadia was dropping the ball. I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I think that these cutscenes are shot at 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second. It's some odd frame per second, and then when they're broadcast to me at 60 frames per second, it kind of looks weird, but it didn't matter because I didn't care enough to pay attention to those anyway, so I would just hold down B and skip the cutscenes. So honestly, I couldn't really spoil you on the story if I wanted to. That being said, I was hoping for a Diablo game. I did not get a Diablo game. I got something that was really more like a brawler, and at the end of the day, I still really, really liked it. You have these two characters. You have War and Strife. Now, I don't know much about the Darksiders games because this is the first Darksiders game that I've played. War, I know, has been in previous games. I don't know if Strife has, but these are the two characters that you can play as in the game. War is this up-close and personal swinging a big, beefy sword around dude, while Strife is more off on the distance and shooting dudes from far away. Let's talk about Strife for a second. Strife has different ammo types. He's got like regular ammo, beam ammo, gravity ammo, nature ammo, and they all do different things. So for instance, the electricity ammo will shoot the enemy, and then it will create little it will start shocking other enemies that are nearby that enemy that you're hitting, which is, I think, is my favorite ammo in the game. While the nature ammo, another one of my favorites, you shoot the enemy and then health orbs spawn on that enemy. Now, one of the things about Strife that is so cool is as you are fighting, you fill up this little white bar on the bottom, and when that's full, all of your ammo gets like extra awesome. So for the nature ammo, what will happen is instead of just shooting and spawning these health globes, it will spawn way more health globes. For the electricity ammo, it will now start shocking enemies that are further away than they were before and doing more damage. With War, you're up close and personal. He has a bunch of different blades that he can use. So basically, he imbues his sword with different aspects. Maybe you can do Thunder Shock, where it can send out an electric shock when you hold down the Y button, which is like the vertical attack button. You can also do one where you have like a vampiric imbuement. So every time you're doing damage, you start to take the enemy's health and get your health back. And there's other ones as well. Both of the characters have other abilities that they can use in addition to their regular attacks. And I have to be honest, I was bad at using most of these. Most of the time, I was just using my regular attacks and not depending on the special attacks, which made the game harder for me. And that's on me. But War has an ability where he can stab the ground and a bunch of blades come flying up out of the ground and hit everybody that's around them, around him. He also has one that will kind of protect him from damage. He has a third one that I never found, so there's a lot more for me to go back and find. While Strife, he's got an ability that will make a copy of himself, and that copy of himself will keep shooting at the enemy, and they will kind of get distracted by that copy, and then you can move around to the other side and start doing damage from the other side until they wipe out that copy. And if they wipe out your copy, then they'll start coming after you. In addition to all those mechanics, you also have another bar that I can't remember exactly what it's called off the top of my head, but basically when you fill it up, it allows you to transform into like this super beast. So War will transform into this monster that has really, really heavy attacks with a sword, and Strife will transform into a monster who has better guns and stuff. Oh man, I almost forgot. Both characters also have these abilities which are really not used in combat very much. I know you can use them in combat, but for the most part, these are puzzle-solving abilities. There's some very, very slight, very easy puzzles for you to do throughout the game. You have the ability to reach out with like this extended hand and grasp things and bring it back to you. Strife, both characters have that ability. Strife has the ability to throw these bombs that will open up portals if you throw them against the right targets. Whereas War has the ability to throw a glaive which can transfer fire from one place to another. Then finally, War also has the ability to break like these weird red crystals and stuff by smashing them and use these things on the ground in order to jump up high. So you have your basic attacks, you have your special attacks, and then you have your puzzle abilities. Overall, there's a lot of things that each character can do in the game, and it varies things up quite a bit and gives you a lot of different things to do. It's very, very much an action RPG, very light on the RPG element. As far as the RPG element, they have these things that you can pick up in your fights with the enemies called creature cores, and as you get these creature cores, you can then socket them into a skill tree, I guess is what I would call it. You socket them into a skill tree. It doesn't really unlock new skills, but it unlocks a bunch of passive things that makes the game a little bit easier as you play through. And it's kind of cool. I didn't understand it at first because each socket has a specific type that is allowed, and those particular sockets will do... They'll be more powerful if you socket the correct type of creature core into that particular socket, if that makes sense. Hopefully I'm explaining it well. You also have ones that you have to go through the tree in order to get to the end. So the most powerful ones get socketed in at the end. The game is really awesome. I do have to say the map is a nightmare. I absolutely can't stand the map in this game. It does not show you where you are on the map. And I got to the point where I just wouldn't even bother opening the map because I could not find what I was looking for because I was always looking around for where the hell am I? If the one thing that I'm going to complain about this game is the map, then I think that we're okay with that. The boss fights are really cool, really hard. Like sometimes there is so much going on the screen that it is tough to tell where's the safe place for either War or Strife to hang out. One of the cool things about combat is, you know, you're going to get killed, right? And if you get killed, I mean, okay, you can if you hit left button and A, you will switch between War and Strife whenever you feel like it. If you get killed, you will automatically switch to the other brother, and then your character has a cooldown. You have to wait until they're able to spawn again, and if you die before that cooldown timer, which I think is about 15 seconds, it's tough to look at it when you're playing because you're just trying to stay alive, but if you die before that cooldown timer is done, then you're dead and you go back to a checkpoint and you have to start over, essentially. However, if you can last just long enough so that cooldown timer comes back up and you can then switch back over to that character, then if you get killed, you'll just switch to the other brother, and it's really cool. I really like that mechanic. I also like the idea of switching back and forth between War and Strife. I really, at the beginning, felt like Strife was my dude. That was the one that I was always going to play with. But it ended up being that I would switch between them all the time, depending on what enemies were around and how aggressive they were. If they were not super aggressive, I would play as War and get up in their face. But if they were really aggressive, I would switch over to Strife and try and plink away at their health from far away. Overall, I think the boss fights are really, really amazing. However, I think that they are just a little bit too hard. Now, that being said, the game does give you the ability to deal with that by going into arenas. You can go into arenas and just farm enemies for souls, and then you can take those souls back to the demons that you're working with and use those souls to buy upgrades to your character, make yourself a little bit more powerful, and then when you go back into the boss fight, maybe you'll live a little bit longer. This is something that I did have to do a couple of times, and I probably could have farmed a little bit more at the end in order to get more souls so that I could unlock more stuff. But I was ready to be done with the game, so I figured I'm just going to lower the difficulty down to casual and beat up on the last guy. And that being said, when I did finally figure out the pattern on how to fight the last guy, I probably could have done it in normal mode, and I may go back and do that at some point as well. The game overall is fantastic. It took me about 16 hours to play. I still have lots to unlock. There's things that I found after I beat, like I decided, oh, I'm all done. I'm going to record some footage for this review. And I unlocked a new ability for Strife while I was doing that. So there's still a lot for me to do. There's still plenty of arenas to do. The multiplayer, gosh, I forgot to talk about the multiplayer. I really did not play very much multiplayer in this game. That being said, the multiplayer that I did play was really, really awesome. The only multiplayer that I played was the first day that I got it. I was doing a live stream, which I sometimes do. If you haven't already, click subscribe and click on that bell notification. And when I do a live stream, you'll get a notification that says, hey, Bill is live, and you can come and watch and hang out and have fun. But it was when Darksiders first came out. I was doing a live stream, and one of my friends was watching, and he was like, hey, do you want to do some multiplayer and so we can see what it's like? And I said, sure. So basically you have to go to a pillar and summon your friend in, and then one of you plays as War, the other one plays as Strife, and you go in and you do stuff. And you kill some dudes. And it works really, really well. That being said, that's the only time that I did multiplayer. I never did split screen co-op because I don't have two controllers here for Google Stadia. Maybe sometime later I'll be able to try that out, and perhaps I'll do an update video later on. But overall, my general feelings about the game are: it is a brawler, not a looter, not an ARPG looter. It is a brawler, 100%, with very slight RPG elements. And it is incredibly fun. And I'm really, really happy that I ended up picking this up. It's a great game, and I recommend it. I think it's fantastic. So anyway, thank you for watching. If you found this video to be enjoyable, make sure you click on that like button. Of course, subscribe and click the bell so you get those notifications that I talked about before. And I will see you soon. Bye-bye.